Today is Zoey and Wallie's second day of clicker training ever. Zoey is working on getting Wallie used to the motions and the sounds that come with the tarp. Part of the reason that we decided to work with the tarp today was to prepare Wallie for saddling. We're hoping that if he gets used to something pretty spooky like a tarp, that he'll be more confident with saddling and later with riding. Today we're just working with the tarp on the ground, but eventually we'll build up to having Wallie carry it on his back. Tarps present a pretty big challenge for horses, and one of the things that you can do when you have a spooky object like this is to retreat from the horse carrying the object. Horses are naturally more curious about things moving away from them, so we ask Wallie to follow the tarp, and he gets clicked every time he catches it. At first, Zoey just clicks Wallie for catching the tarp with his nose, but eventually she builds up duration and asks him to keep his nose on the tarp longer and longer for one click and treat. Then she changes her criteria, and Wallie needs to put a foot on it to get Zoey to stop the tarp and give him a click and a treat. One of the ways that we helped Wallie to become braver with putting his feet on things was to play the bucket game with him. When you play the bucket game, you get a bucket that smells really good like grain, and you click the horse for doing absolutely anything to the bucket. And pretty soon they tip it over, rub it with their head, and eventually will try hitting it with a foot or two. And when they realize that all of this results in a click, they learn to use their feet to experiment with things just like they would use their noses. Wallie is still very much about just putting a foot on the tarp and pulling it away very quickly. He's sort of stomping it as opposed to showing any inclination to actually stay on the tarp. So Zoey's going to keep retreating with it and actually try retreating at the trot. Usually if your horse will trot after an object, they're pretty ready to work on it in a stationary setting and possibly have you approach them with it as opposed to them approaching the object of their own accord. Here Zoey is asking Wallie to step just a little bit further onto the tarp, and you can see that the second Wallie puts his foot even the littlest bit further than it was before, Zoey clicks and is right there with the treat. She asks him again to come just a little bit further than he had the previous time, and again he gets rewarded with a click and a treat. After Wallie gets all 4 feet on the tarp, Zoey will begin building up the amount of time that he can stand on it. But for now, we'll build distance first and add in duration later.